We are back again. This is episode 15 of the Collective Podcast. Thank you to all of our Spotify and Anchor listeners. Thank you to all of our YouTube viewers. We appreciate you. Once again, this is episode 15 of the Collective Podcast. We appreciate you being here. I am Anthony Carter, and with me are Michael Tillery and Rodney Saucier. A lot has happened. A lot has transpired since last we spoke. I know we're going to get into it. I don't know if we're getting into sports at all, but I want to start off with a letter that I received from John Foley, who is the founder and CEO of Peloton. It was a letter to all membership, so it didn't just come to me. It was a letter to all membership from the CEO and co-founder of Peloton. And this is a white man. This letter came yesterday, Saturday. Well, I'm sorry. It came Sunday, May 31st at 12:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. Fellow members, at Peloton, one of our core values is together we go far. Together we go far means nothing without stating unequivocally that Black Lives Matter. And he's got that emboldened, Black Lives Matter. This has never been clearer to me than in this moment, and like so many of you, I am outraged at the loss of life and the persistent, unequal treatment of the Black community. Peloton is late to engaging directly with you on this. We have stood too quietly in the face of clear injustice. That ends today. I want to be clear about where we stand and our next steps. I personally care deeply about this issue, and I'm prepared to do everything in my power to drive positive change. Peloton stands for inclusion, love, acceptance, and support. If we do not love our neighbors, all of our neighbors, how do we love anyone? Coming out the last few weeks, our Black communities are hurting deeply. Members of our own Peloton community are hurting deeply. Our instructors and many of our other team members are hurting deeply. We need to stand together, help each other, love one another, and most importantly, take action. Hey, Mike, can you mute till I finish this? I'm trying to mute you, but it's not working. Oh, he frozen? Oh, he's frozen. That's the problem. Let's see. Mike? All right. He's frozen. I'm going to kick him out and have him come back. Sorry about that. And then I realized it was him, Rod, not you, so I can unmute you. Coming out the last few weeks, our Black communities are hurting deeply. Members of our own Peloton community are hurting deeply. Our instructors and many of our team members are hurting deeply. We need to stand together, help each other, love one another, and most importantly, take action. Today, we are donating $500,000 to the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund to support the important work they're doing for racial justice. As an ongoing commitment, we are creating an anti-racism plan to ensure that our organization can be the best version of itself from the inside out. We may never be perfect, but we're going to do better every day. We commit to sharing more about our efforts as they take shape. Please know that we will move quickly and that our actions will be sustained. But we know that that is not enough, that this is not enough. We will continue to develop meaningful ways to use our voices, platform, and resources to fight injustice. We are outraged and heartbroken at the events occurring across our country. In the fight for an anti-racist world, we have a responsibility to combat hate, discrimination, and unfair treatment of our fellow humans. In a note that I sent to the Peloton team on Friday, I called out the following. At Peloton, we have the power and responsibility to create a culture where hate and discrimination have no place. The feeling I want all of you to have when you come to work and for all our members to have every time they interact with us is inclusion. It's belonging, acceptance, and safety. This week, what's become clear to me is we must ensure this is an anti-racist organization. We should not be satisfied with ourselves unless we are intentionally and proactively changing our ways of thinking on a daily basis. We should not be satisfied with ourselves unless we are consistently tearing down the prejudices that facilitate such acts of hatred. And we should not be satisfied with ourselves until we are together dismantling the systemic structures that allow inequality to remain a fixture in our society. In the words of the novelist and playwright James Baldwin, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. We have work to do. I will end by letting you know that Peloton is here for you, all of our members. But today, we are here particularly for our Black members and our Black employees and our Black communities. We acknowledge our responsibility to be part of the solution. We are committed to doing our part, and we are committed to continued action. Together we go far, now more than ever. John Foley, founder and CEO of Peloton, executive sponsor of Black at Peloton Employee Resource Group. React.
Well, I can just tell you off the top, I'm glad to hear him say that they were late getting on board. I think that's a statement that most of the people who we even see on television protesting have not addressed. They've all been late getting on board. This is something that we've been screaming about for years. And a lot of murders have taken place prior to now. And I've been wondering myself, just personally, why do they just now see that? Why did it take this particular death for people to say, oh, now I see what they're talking about, or we need some justice reform or something to that effect? I mean, we've been seeing murders of unarmed Black Americans in the news, probably several each year for the past maybe 10 years or more. So it just is mind-boggling to me why all of a sudden you didn't see it with all these other deaths. You see it now, and not only do you see it, but you're at the front of the lines protesting. When I look on CNN from city to city, there are more whites than Blacks. They're in the front, leading the charge. And I'm saying, where was all this energy 40 deaths ago? Or why was there so much disdain for Colin Kaepernick when he tried to point this out? I don't understand it. What I don't want to see happen is someone use our fight for some other personal gain. I don't want to see that. I don't like when certain groups equate their struggle to civil rights struggles for their benefit, and then they gain, and then the civil rights groups don't. You know, and I'll stop there on that topic.
Okay, what you got, Mike?
Because I know we're gonna go further, so I'll stop there with that.
Something I've been doing in my life lately, and it's given me a lot of peace, is holding people accountable for bullshit. I say that because, you know, when we are friends with people, or, you know, we're in relationships and an issue arises, most likely during an argument or a debate on the issue, people make excuses by avoiding the actual topic. What I've learned, especially with regards to race in this country, how the actual subject will get muddied and blurred and all kinds of diversions instead of talking about race. So I've always been one to say that racism equates to murder. It's just how I choose to look at it because it holds people accountable. This thing here, as it progresses and as the looting and the destruction happens across the country, we have to hold white folks accountable by sticking to the murder. I don't care how uncomfortable they get. They must stick to the actual murder. We cannot try to make them feel better about themselves to enter into this discussion with us about this. We must hold it strictly to murder, period. No chaser, no disclaimers, no nothing. As soon as they talk about destruction, good cops, what have you, just cut the conversation off because it's going to do nothing but raise your blood pressure. As Rodney said, when Kaepernick was talking about this, you started to see all these memes and these Facebook profile borders, I stand for the flag. When we know Kaepernick was not protesting the flag.
He was never standing against the flag, ever.
Never, ever. It was all
or
about
the armed forces
brutality and racial injustice. Period. And this hurts me so bad because if we would have paid attention to Colin Kaepernick more, not talking about us, but the culture, so many people might still be alive.
Yeah.
Because pressure would have been, look, y'all. We as Black people, I'm getting a little bit passionate right now because this is something that is 400 years strong with us. We got to stop giving these people a pass, man. We got to stop giving these people a pass by the way we talk about it, by the way we look at it, by the way we interact with them or even each other. We must stick to the actual action and not the reaction. And I'm seeing a lot of this. Like, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about looting. I've had two friends of mine that I've known for 35 years text me about looting. And I'm like, I haven't heard, you didn't text me about George Floyd dying. You didn't text about Alton Sterling or Walter Scott or TreVon Martin and so many other of these cases. But you want to talk about looting? Is it the point of you being so scared of Black people that when we do anything aggressively is when your fear boils to the surface and you react in an irrational way? That's what I think it is. These folks don't have to deal with us and not dealing with us. When they see us act the way that they stereotypically see us as, it's a problem. Now, I cringe when I look at the TV screen and I see young brothers and sisters walking out of stores with all kinds of stolen gear. To me, and this is what the media is going to portray, is the negativity of us, because that's always been the case. Let's just tell it like it is. It's always been the case. In this instance, I tell people that's 90%. We're the protesters, the good, peaceful protesters, are 90% of what we've been trying to get across from y'all for 400 goddamn years. Okay? So if you choose as a fight or flight mechanism to specifically deal just on the looting, that is your weakness. It has nothing to do with us, and it's none of our business. I implore white folks out there who are listening right now, stick to the murder, the actual imagery of the murder, however you need to do so. Because when you begin to talk about all these buts and make excuses, that's when the guilt is allowed to rise to the surface and you are able to run from the actual subject. We can't have that no more. Black people are sick of this shit. We are sick of dying. We are sick of publicly dying on TV to where we have to discuss and explain this to our children or what have you. It's on y'all. We've done whatever we've tried to do. I'm sick of trying to be like this peacemaker or this gatekeeper for y'all. I'm speaking specifically personally about myself and how people are hitting me up all day to where I had to post a post from Justice B. Hill, used to work for Major League Baseball, the website. He's a great writer. He wrote something on the question, what can I do? You know, and it's something that comes to mind when you're watching Malcolm X and a young blonde lady goes up to him and asks, what can I do for the movement? And he says nothing. It's something he regretted later on. But we can't look, listen, if the tables were turned, right, and white folks were going through something traumatic, we wouldn't ask, we would do. We don't need to ask y'all. We would just do it. So you got to do the same thing. Like, what is this like foreign thing where you can't understand or you can't discern what our pain is because you haven't gone through it? There's certain pains we don't need to go through to understand because it's right there in your face. If you choose not to deal with Black people on an organic level, that is your issue. We can't help you. We can't help you no longer. We're tired of that. You know, that's way in the past. You got to do for yourself, and you got to understand the human instincts of your soul to be able to talk about this, to be able to deal with it, and not just talk about looting and destruction.
Yeah.
So one thing that's been interesting, well, for anybody that's been living in a box, rest in peace, George Floyd. One of the things that's been the topic of conversation within my family is people's friends that exercise what is now considered or what is now labeled white silence. It's interesting that Mizzo talks about doing versus asking, doing versus seeking advice, doing, right? Rod talked about being late to the party. I think that social media is so powerful that it enables us on so many levels to see exactly who people are. So many people put on these facades about who they are, their values, and all of that. But when it's time to getting, we see where are you? I'll tell you, Breonna had a situation. There's a white friend of hers, or a white person that she went to school with. I guess you could have called them friends in school, but now they're just social media friends. And Breonna said she's been watching her friends that will fall in that category, right? Watching to see the responses and what's happening on their walls. And this particular person has just been completely silent. But Breonna posts a video of her doing my stepdaughter's hair, braiding my stepdaughter's hair yesterday, and braiding my sister-in-law's hair yesterday. She posted 2 separate videos, and then this social media friend of hers that she went to school with hits her up and says, "Hey, can you braid my hair, or do you think that would look crazy?" Is that elitism? Is that racial insensitivity? Is that the essence of oblivion or obliviousness? Is that person just absolutely entitled? What is it that in the midst of all that is going on leads you, someone who I don't even talk to? We're on social media together, right? Like you said, Mike, you ain't talked to these people in a minute and they're talking to you about looting. Breonna doesn't necessarily talk to this person. They're not still friends. But you think, oh, let me get the black hairstyle and would it look crazy? In the midst of all of this, you haven't said word one about George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery. You haven't said word one about any of this. But now you want your hair braided by Breonna, but will it look crazy? Lady, you look crazy asking me this. You're not asking me anything about our fight, our struggle, our struggles, our fights. You're not saying anything about this murder, any of the other murders. This murder that was caught on camera. Hey, you even get the you even have a built-in pass because the man has been arrested. The main man, Derek Chauvin, has been arrested for murder. So you don't even have to speak out against people that you might normally align with, because even the other side sees that this guy is a villain, and you're still silent. You didn't even take advantage of the convenient pass. You're still silent. But you want to know if you would look crazy if you got your hair braided. I'm so disgusted by I'm so disgusted by the fact that in 2020, we are still we just have no idea what's going to happen on a traffic stop, or this wasn't even a traffic stop. The man sitting in his car. We just have no idea what's going to happen. When I was growing up, we were called endangered species, and the question was, will you make it to 21? And if you get to 21 as a black male, boy, you're doing something, because America's killing us. Well, America wasn't killing us on camera then. We were dying behind the scenes. And some of that was also us killing us. So I'll be fair. Because gang violence was very prevalent then, but where the hell did we get the guns from? You know? And when I got past 21, I actually celebrated. And I celebrated again at 25. Because I was like, I might just make it to have kids, and I might just make it. And I'm not saying I had a false sense of security. I just felt like, hey, I was able to dodge some things that other people weren't able to dodge. Whether it goes back to when I was 17 and I was face down on Olympic and Crenshaw with LAPD having their knee in my back and a gun to my head because I had expired tags. And I got out of that with my life. I didn't have a false sense of security because that should have just been a traffic stop. Even if you want to take my car, I shouldn't be face down with your knee in my back and a gun to my head. But I made it out of that. Now, again, no false sense of security. I have always made it a point to be extremely cautious when I am pulled over. Overly cautious, just because you never know. And that was way before the days of anything being recorded, way before the days of body cams. And you would think now you could have a false sense of security because everything's on camera, but it would be just that, a false sense of security. Do you think that Mr. Floyd believed that he was in any kind of danger of losing his life when he went to the store that day? And we watched the life leave his body. That's murder. That's murder. Rodney and I were very close to the Rodney King situation in proximity because we live here. And I know that Mike Tillery, being who he was, followed it from afar. But Simi Valley is essentially up the street from us. Actually, Rodney might have actually been in Baltimore when it was happening, but Rodney's roots are here. So whatever else, Rodney and I were close to that. And boy, was that something on camera, I don't know if it was a Betamax or VHS, but on camera, they are beating the living crap out of that man. Rodney King, rest in peace. They're beating the dog mess out of that man. And it was caught on camera. And that was like, boy, this is heinous. We've never seen anything like this on camera. It happened before that. It happened after that, off camera. But you felt like, boy, if more people would record, if more people just really get their eyes on this, then we'll see some change. Or the people who are murdering they themselves will change. Do I believe that Derek Chauvin ever murdered anyone before? No, but now he has. And I believe that whether you feel like there was intent, which I believe that there was, or you believe that there was depraved indifference, what outcome did you think would come from you kneeling on this man's neck while he's face down, handcuffed, hands behind his back, handcuffed? He's telling you, I can't breathe, you're going to kill me. What did you think would come from that? Was he breathing too loudly for you? Was he breathing too heavily for you? I don't understand how anyone could do this, and now it's on camera, and he knows it was on camera. This wasn't a secret recording. He's snickering at the people recording him, yelling at him. And he continues to commit murder. This is the definition of intent. You know what you're doing. And those that mocked Colin Kaepernick, those that have taken all of these other injustices and murders, Ahmaud Arbery, all these other murders so lightly, whether they were at the hands of law enforcement or not. Most of them have been, not Ahmaud Arbery, not TreVon Martin, but most of them have been at the hands of law enforcement. And you take that lightly, even though some of them have happened on camera. The brother on the freeway, on camera. I can't remember his name. I know it's
Crutcher. Terrence Crutcher.
Yeah, that was in Minnesota, right? The brother on the freeway who was the passenger who had the permit.
Castillo.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So, Castillo. You talking about Castillo? Yes, definitely.
Yeah, he was
Minneapolis.
He was the passenger. Yeah, that was in Minneapolis.
Okay. Well, hi
in front
Minneapolis.
of his child.
Hi Minneapolis. So when you look at what we are dealing with as a people, Black people, men, women, children, boys, girls, elderly, we are under attack, and we could be doing nothing but minding our own business and still lose our lives. So when you say to me that all lives matter, yeah, you know what? All lives do matter. But I think that people don't really understand that Black lives matter. They treat Black lives with such disdain, such indifference. The Black lives are indifferent. or we're indifferent to Black lives actually mattering. This is nuts. Like nothing changed. Colin Kaepernick fought, and people look back and say, well, what was that for? And what was this? And what was that? He said nothing negative about the flag. He said nothing negative about military, nothing negative about most of the people who were coming back and saying negative things to him and anybody who stood with him. I have a picture here of a Rams game with Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed. I don't know the other fella's name, kneeling. I happen to be in the picture too. Like I worked that game on the sideline. He made so much money. It doesn't matter if he gave away his career. It doesn't matter that, I mean, wow, he didn't bow down to the NFL when they invited him back. He's so ungrateful. He doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't know what he wants to fight for. He knew what he didn't want. He knew what he didn't want to give into. He knew that his fight wasn't over. He knew that our fight wasn't over. And anybody that thinks it is definitely misguided.
Hey, look, man, you know, I don't know if y'all saw it or not, but there was a meme that was going around that said COVID had a 28-3 lead on racism, right? And we all know what that is a reference to. Look. I mean, we've all been entrenched in this society for decades. I was born a month after Martin Luther King's assassination. And, you know, I tell people all the time that the further you are from his assassination specifically, the less consciousness you will have in terms of the civil rights era. And that's really unfortunate. So the next generation really didn't see anything until Rodney King, right? So, you know, I grew up, we talked about MOVE last week. We talked about, you know, police brutality here in Philadelphia. You know, my dad would talk about how, you know, Mayor Rizzo's cops were just wreaking havoc on Black men here in Philadelphia. You know, he has an iconic mural near the Italian market. You know, this dude is revered. They're protecting his statue here. When it comes to Black people here in this country, you know, this is the reason why I am very confident. I am very spirited. I am very unapologetic when it comes to race. They get no pass because 1619 was a long time ago. And in my mind, there hasn't been much change because of what AC was talking about, the perception of us. We're seen as lower than low. It seems like when other races all of a sudden are up the bat, you know, and they get their time to be criticized, it always comes back to us. And, you know, the fact that the media is showing nothing but looting and even explaining when white kids are coming out of stores with merchandise that they've stolen and saying that maybe they worked there or this and that. We have been painted a certain way, and that's what the narrative is. You know, us being in the media, AC, we've seen it. You know, we have fought hard against it, and this is something that I will never not fight against. Stop fighting against. I get criticized a lot for my stance on racism, the fact that I talk about it so much. I don't feel comfortable with the broader culture and also ourselves, how we deal with it. Yes, it has been something very traumatic along our existence and will continue to be, because this last part, these last 6 months of this year, woo, we have no idea what we're about to see leading up to this election. The fact that we were seeing armed citizens at the Capitol spitting in cops' faces. There was no tear gas, but we're seeing tear gas everywhere with these demonstrations, um, protesting the death of George Floyd. This is a 50-year thing that we're going through right now. The last time these things happened like this was 1968 with the death of the aforementioned MLK. And we're also going through a 100-year thing with the COVID. The last time being, 1919, 1921 with the Spanish flu. So this country is in the midst of a seminal era. And coming out of this era, we will see who is real and who is not. I am unfortunately seeing on social media friends who I love go the opposite direction when it comes to race. Racism has made the majority of white citizens comfortable. This situation here on this soil is not set up for us. It never has been. We can go back to the Constitution, and it's in plain words right there. I don't understand how we as Black folks continue to capitulate, continue to expect anything different. What we have to do is grab what's ours. It's not going to be given to us. I don't understand why we think it's going to be given to us. I don't understand why we think that these people are going to love us the way we think we deserve to be loved by all. What evidence do we have that suggests that this will be something that we can hold on to? This is not asking for anarchy or dissension or separation or anything of the sort. But what I need white folks to do is to look in the mirror and hold themselves accountable. Again, this is not something that we can fix. I am encouraged, in the minimum, that I'm seeing more people talk about it. They're asking questions. They're trying to be involved. As Rodney says, they're at the front lines of these protests and demonstrations across the nation. That is something that it makes me smile. But what took y'all so long? What took you so long? You get no pass for something you should have been doing 400 years ago. If you know somebody in your family is racist, if you see racist practices and you don't speak up, you are racist yourself. That's the label that you should deserve, because you ain't doing nothing about it. I hope, we all have children. I have grandchildren. I want to see something different. I want to see white folks stand up and poke their chests out. Stand up. Be conscious. Be courageous. You want to fight all kinds of other things? Fight this. Fight this with all your might, so I know it's real. Because when you don't, I think you fake, and I do not respect you, and I will not ever respect you. You ask us to be something of strength, of moral character. That's the reason why you're so critical of us all the time. What about you? What about you? What about this moral high ground that you expect of everybody else, but you're not ascending to yourself? Who are you to think that you are so perfect that you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing? I need y'all to step up, man. I need y'all to step up. You're not going to get any like Mr. Good Guy, Mr. Nice Guy from me no longer. You know, I need you to step up because we are putting ourselves on the front line. We are sacrificing our careers basically to talk about race all the time. You know, we are trying to do whatever we can do to rid this earth of the scourge of racism. But when I see people, as AC was saying, this social media silence and what have you, it makes me not respect you. It makes me look at you a lot lesser. My hope is you ascend to this challenge. It is not and is no longer up to us. It is up to you, period. I don't care about this thing where people saying where it's the government trying to divide us. And it's the government doing this and doing that. Who is the head of the government? I don't see a bunch of black folks in there running around making policy. Your father's lie causes us to die. And if you do not want or desire to fix this, it will continue on for generations. But I'm telling you what, as you're seeing, we ain't going to take it no longer. We're not taking it. And that's where your fear comes in. So you're fearing the potential of us potentially raging as we should have a long time ago to fix this shit. It is on you, period. There's no longer no disclaimers, no happy talk, no peaceful kumbaya bullshit, none of that. You either step up or it is on you. The mirror is turned on your face. Are you going to deal with the shine of it appropriately, or are you going to let it crack in your face?
Just going back to what AC started off with Breonna's associate from high school. You know, the key word that we keep throwing in there is indifference. And you guys have made some very emotional, spirited, valid points about what's going on. You know, so many people have sat around indifferent for so long because it hadn't reached them, because it hadn't touched their family, that they figure, you know, non-issue. It's no big deal.
You've also not challenged them appropriately too.
Right. And the first thing they brought up is the looting and the rioting. One thing I do is when I see articles from major sources like USA Today or, you know, sources like that, I always look at the comment section. Because the feelings, you know, they're different state to state, they're different region to region, they're different culture to culture. And I like to get a general feeling of how the feeling is across the country. So I try to look at these huge publications to look at the comments and see how people generally feel. And the general feeling when I read these articles is that they're still focused on the looting and the rioting and everything negative that comes with an unrest. And I've told some people on social media, you get a little bit of everything with unrest. You know, don't focus on the instances you see with the looting and the rioting. Focus on the fact that these people, however they're doing it, they're making their point and getting their point across. You know, how we may do something isn't necessarily how someone else may do something. But as long as you get your point across and you meet your target and achieve your objective, it's not all for naught. If we come out of this with laws, with amendments that will protect people of color, and it costs businesses and it costs, the economy money, but it's going to save lives, my personal feeling, so be it. It wasn't a loss. It wasn't a loss. You get over the years, over the history of our country, we've had more than this go on. We've had casualties. Go back to the Stamp Act. Go back to the Boston Tea Party. Go back to all those things that were going on in the 1700s when they were trying to break away from the crown in England, the colonists, and when they first arrived to America, but still under British rule, what they went through and what they did trying to break away. It's no different. It's bloodshed, it's looting, it's rioting, killing. And then you had some that were peaceful and some who were working on the other side trying to get whatever they needed to get accomplished, trying to set up a government. So a lot of people are losing the fact that these people are being heard. I gave an example on social media about old school parents, and especially old school parents from the South, the ones who spanked. And you do something wrong, you come in and you get loud or you lie about what you did, and the parents get so infuriated, they want to spank you. And they don't go around the house looking for something that's not going to puncture you or not going to set us, make a bruise. And they're not thinking about social workers, and they're not thinking about anything else. They're thinking about, I need to discipline this kid right now. So they grab whatever's near and they swing. And I also added, is that good parenting? If they hit you with a I had cousins who got popped for not holding their head still when they were getting their hair pressed. My female cousins. Is that good parenting because she won't keep her hair straight to get her hair pressed with a hot comb? No. Shouldn't get popped for that. Boys get popped with Hot Wheel tracks or go outside, got to pick a switch. It's going to leave a bruise, welts, whatever. Good parenting? Probably not. But they got their point across, and whatever fashion they did it in, you learn from it, and you didn't make the same mistake. You came out good for it. Some people don't spank, but this regards to the people who were brought up that way. And so that was my point. We can't tell these people how to protest. We can't tell them how to grieve. We can't tell them how to feel. If they're going to grieve and go out in the streets and make noise and yell, so be it. But now you hear them when you didn't hear them when they were asking. You didn't hear them when they were being nice about it and requesting things. And we've never, as a country, as a people, gained anything without fight and without struggle. Every person in the struggle has made a similar comment. Nothing comes without fighting. Nothing comes easy. So I think AC, the indifference of the person that Breonna knows, and just the lack of the lack of awareness to the timing and what's going on. And I just said the same thing about those cops in Atlanta who tased those two students in the car. You can feel what's going on. You see what's going on. and you tase kids in the car, and then you throw that tired somebody reach for something. We heard the word gun. I mean, like, that's the oldest thing in the book. You got nothing better than that? And just the lack of awareness. Just the lack of awareness to what's going on and the times we're living in is enough to dismiss that person. And I hope Breonna, if she didn't make that point to her, makes that point to her and give her something to think about so she doesn't walk around, because sometimes we allow people to walk around naive because we don't check them when they say certain things out of ignorance or ask certain questions out of ignorance. And we definitely have to check these people. We're not getting any leadership in this country. We got a president sitting there right now who's saying that he can't wait to see the most vicious dogs attack the protesters, the most to see these extreme weapons that the military has used on the protesters, that they put the young guys in the front so they can get a chance to get their feet wet with all of this. I mean, you fanning the flames, but yet people are still saying, oh, we still support him. I mean, like, it's almost a slap in the face. You want to help us in this protest, but then you want to still say, hey, we need to keep this president because the economy is doing well. The economy is going to do well regardless of who's president. If it's going up, it's going up. When I took my history classes towards my degree at Howard, one of my instructors told me, as long as the fighting dies down the Middle East, the economy is good. When the fighting starts to get bigger, the economy is bad. And so far, he hasn't been wrong. We haven't heard much fighting in that part of the world, and the economy's been great. So I'm saying that to say people have to focus on what the problem is and stop looking at the aftermath. You know, we can't focus on, because I was at a store yesterday. I have a high school friend who opened up a store, a small liquor store, convenience shop, Ambassador Liquors. Shout out to Al Perry. And I stood there for a while. He had a food truck, and there were people who was coming down the street in Long Beach, ready to vandalize his store. And they were not people of color. They were people who, didn't necessarily live in Long Beach. They could have been outsiders, but they were coming to the store. They were coming down the street, ready to tear up anything in their path. Bands of them in pickup trucks and all kinds of stuff. And a lot of people of color told them, hey, get away. Don't do that around here. This is our stuff. And I even offered to have several of us guard the store as much as possible, as long as we could be out there in shifts to make sure that we have people with small businesses who will have their stuff protected, because there's always something that we can do to help the struggle. We don't have to stay angry.
Yeah. Once again, thank you guys for listening to the Collective Podcast on Anchor and Spotify. Thank you for watching on YouTube. We appreciate you. This is us. This is us, raw and uncut. Like I told you, we're gonna give this to you, give you our true feelings. I don't know that I ever teared up on camera before this, other than proposing to Breonna, but This is real, man. You guys want to talk about a little bit of sports now?
I mean, not much we can actually really say. I thought it was interesting that all of a sudden Michael Jordan chimed in
Oh,
and wanted to be a social activist
wait,
now.
what? I didn't know. But
Yeah.
before we start that, did you have anything else, Mike? I mean, I know we can go for another 5
Man,
6.
look, we could talk about this all day. I like somebody tagged me in a post talking about how Coach K and Roy Williams specifically haven't spoken out. And they asked
Quite
my
a few
opinion.
major coaches. Yeah.
Right, and they asked my opinion of if listen, I can't even focus on sports right now. Sports is like so far out of my mind. First of all, it doesn't even seem tangible because of the COVID. But secondly, I mean, there are much more important issues. I've noticed as I've gotten older, I've fallen more out of love with sports because of their parents and it's almost a catalyst. Like social ill is almost a catalyst in this country. You know that it is there, is not going to go away. So the whole sports thing, it seems like like little people outside your door jumping double dutch or something. Like it's a respite. I mean, and it's a respite so far from my mind right now. And I can't see it. Like I can't address it. It's difficult for me to talk about the stuff that passes on my timeline. I did post something today. Was just really addressing the comparison of Wilt, Mike, and LeBron, and the like. But I just posted it because it came up in my memories, and it was something that I said a long time ago, specifically about Michael Jordan, and the reason why the reason why was as great as he was because he had so much help, and I specifically addressed Tex Winter, but it is. I'm not ready to talk about sports. I'm not ready to talk about it. I'm not ready to look at it. I'm not ready to write about it. The one thing that this time is doing, on the first podcast, I talked about the book that I'm writing, and this is reinvigorating me right now because we have to document this time as passionately as can be for the future. So they look back and they see us like this really matters. Like when people say all lives matter, whatever, I say specifically back to them. All lives don't matter until Black lives matter. It's just as simple as that, And I feel like I'm a king. I don't see myself as someone just riding along in society to be like the next man that's next to me or living next to me or working next to me or what have you. I feel the full spirit of my soul based on the ancestors of us that came before us, that stood up, that died, that spoke out, that did things, that made sure that the people next to them did not see them as subservient. I will not shake my keys in a parking lot to let you know that I'm behind you as you put your groceries in the car. There will be nothing of that with me. And we have to do this. We cannot say to these people, we were just like you. If we say we're just like you, it's going to give them a pass and allow all this bullshit racism to continue on. Like, this is like a simple thing to me. We got to go hard on this. Like, we got to go the hardest hard. The hardest hard. We got to do whatever it takes within our power. We cannot sit idly by and expect something to change. Nothing has changed. Emmett Till, Ahmaud Arbery. How many years between that? All these lynchings, these 5,000 lynchings, that's the number that they give, but all of the people, all of the bloodlines that have been severed, the doctors, the lawyers, the presidents, the Hall of Fame athletes, the good fathers, the good mothers, all these people that we've lost and their memories really haven't been appreciated because we've become numb and desensitized to something we see as common, and that's our murder and death. Like I can't bite my words. I can't mince my words. I can't sit here and try to, respond in kind. Like it's not within me. It's just not within me. It's not possible. It is only me as I am right now, because I just saw a video yesterday. I think it was in La Mesa, of a young brother who was just stopped and accosted by these cops because he was in a white area. And if it wasn't for white folks who were there, who saw the whole thing and put it on camera, I don't know if he just would have been arrested, because he was giving it back to him. He wasn't sitting here and being docile and meek. And that's what I see us as doing right now. We're docile and meek. I see people coming on my page to try to say, well, we got to do it with slow, slow moving parts are the most frustrating thing of my lifetime. I want to see us equal. I want to see us to be able to be free, to be able to just go along our daily lives without distress, angst, frustration, anxiety, fear, and what have you. But I don't know if we're going to get there, because we as Black folks are choosing to be meek in these moments collectively. I'm talking about the people who are in power of us, the people who are making the policy, the people who are up and have made it. I don't see them passionate like I need to see them to be able to stop this in its tracks. I just see good Christian words, okay? Good Christian words, good religious words that basically allow this to continue on, because they aren't challenged with base. We need to also challenge ourselves with base. How is this going to change? Like, are we really going to expect like laws to be in support of us? Why will laws be in support of us when we're not taking it to them, either financially or otherwise? There's no plan. Like we're just sitting here and allowing ourselves to be killed off. We get upset. We go through our emotions. We protest. We do this and that. It dies down. It happens again. It happens in droves. When these things happen, there's not just one. And rest in peace, Breonna Taylor as well. Who's not really getting our attention as she should.
Yeah.
And this is also something that we need to do specifically as Black men. We need to address that we do not speak out as much when Black women die. This is huge. They support us. They are there. Black women are there for us. They make sure to speak out and do whatever they need to do to get our memories honored or our justice served, even if it comes from within ourselves. We have to do it in the same regard and the opposite. And when we don't, it makes us look weak. It makes us like we don't care. You know, she was on her way to a great life. She had did everything she had to do in terms of her schooling and, you know, in her profession to be able to ascend to some great heights potentially. You know, this is, man, look, man, you know, I've been so emotional about this because I don't see it ending. You know what I mean? I don't see it ending. I don't see like a true stance from us that is comparable to the powers that be. That is my biggest issue. We are not standing powerful to where we are willing to do whatever it takes to get this bullshit off this earth. And until we get to that point, it's going to stay here. It is going to happen again and again and again, and it's never going to stop because we aren't truly challenging it. We sit in church and we pray about it. We forgive them. And I'm not talking about the everyday citizen. I'm talking about the people who wield the power of us. That's the problem. Those people are telling us to be docile. The first thing they say, we got Killer Mike on TV crying, talking about his family and the cops in his family. This ain't the time to be crying. We've cried out. Aren't we all cried out? Like, aren't we all like emotionally drained to the sheer depths of this? It is deep. It is so deep. It is barbaric. And we aren't calling them barbarians. How is this continuing to happen? If you look at all of the cases from since 2013, that's just going back, 7 years? One cop has done time. One cop. That's what Walter Scott's killer, right? He's the only one. That's it. These pictures of all of these dead black people, like, are put in our face, and when they're put on a bigger picture, and all of them exist on that picture, it is disgusting. It makes me want to throw up. I think that white folks in particular were so disgusted by his reaction to that knee and his hand in his pocket. And look, we also got to address something like this. Like, I've been a bouncer. I've been a bouncer in many bars and clubs. And the first thing you do when you become a bouncer in a club is you meet like the bouncers who've already been there, the veterans, if you will. So we have evidence of them, George Floyd and Chauvin, working in the same club. A club that Chauvin worked in for 17 years. There is no way possible he did not know George Floyd. If you're working security, most of the time you're working the late night shift. They're saying that they work overlapping shifts. You still see people. You see them. You address them because you're doing their same job. Like, you can't tell me that all bartenders in any restaurant or all servers don't know each other. They're taking over for the previous person. There's like a passing of the baton of sorts. This is the angle that should be addressed. And it looks premeditated to me. Like, how is this not premeditated? Now, I understand that Mike Freeman wanted to put out a charge because he wanted to quell what we're seeing right now across the nation. And I just saw a text come across that Hennepin County, the MA, the medical examiner, has ruled this a homicide. On the initial report, it was talking about underlying issues, the possibility of drugs, and also the need that contributed to his death. Now that the ME is coming out and saying that it is a homicide, and I think that was only a reaction because the Floyd family got Michael Baden and also Lisa Wilson to also do an autopsy, and they called it a homicide. So it's very curious that this comes out right now, given that of their findings. Michael Baden is a world-renowned medical examiner. He's been on many TV shows. He's put in the work for a long time, and I'm glad that they got him to do this, because it can't be countered with intelligence, because he is one of the most intelligent and most experienced at what he does. I think that what we need to do in this instance, and what we need to do continuing on as we see these things happen, is take ourselves out of the box, out of the normalcy of what these things appear to be, and address them with clean minds and say, okay, this is the case. Despite the fact that it seems like a common thing because we've seen it so many other times, but we got to come at this in another direction. Like, we got to see it differently. We get mad, we get sad, and then all of a sudden we get glad when we see that their charges are brought up, and then the sad and the anger comes when there's no conviction. And even there is a conviction, there isn't like the time that seems like a comparable a prison sentence. Like, if four dudes in a car go to rob a bank and they get caught, and one of them kills somebody inside the bank trying to get away, they're all brought up on murder charges. Anybody in the car, if you're associated with these dudes, you're brought up on murder charges. Why haven't the three of the other cops who were there been brought up on charges? I think that will quell a lot of this frustration with the protesters that's being like reframed as looting and destruction. But that's on Mike Freeman and the rest of the hierarchy in Minneapolis. I love Minneapolis. I go to Minneapolis, Tom. One of my best experiences was covering an Eagles-Vikings game there, inside the dome, and I got to shake Adrian Peterson's hand, and I got big hands. That dude was a beast. But Minneapolis was a great little town for me. I happened to be there during like Mischief Night, and it was very festive. It's one of the best experiences I've had in a city that I was unaware of, So Minnesota nice, as they call it, but there's a lot of racial strife and history there. It's especially on that corner where George Floyd's life was taken from him. In that vicinity, so many things has happened over time. Like we alluded to Philando Castile, and the obviousness of his death. The fact that he told the cop that he had his permit, and like Rodney said, he was killed in front of his baby girl and his fiance. And there have been settlement in those cases, but it went away. Like, nobody really talks about Philando Castile's name. It's going away. It was a scant couple years ago, and now we're dealing with the same thing again. And I just wonder, for our sanity moving forward, Like, how are we going to address the next case and the 10, 15, 25, 100 cases after that? Because I don't see us doing what we need to do as a people to stop this, because we are so dependent on a judicial and criminal justice system that has never looked at us as equal and handed down like equal sentencing, whether it be drugs, whether it be crime, whether it be misdemeanors, whether it be jaywalking, whether it be what have you. I spoke earlier about, white folks challenging themselves. This is where you need to challenge yourself by telling your politicians, the people, the judges, the auditors, the aldermen, all of these people, that this stuff ain't right. Like, why are these laws existing if they're not of equal measure? And why don't we respect Black people enough to see them as our equals instead of looking at them as a novelty, as a mascot, as Malcolm X called us in the book? Like they're able to pick us up and talk about us and talk to us and whatever, and put us back in a little box that is the TV when convenient. Like, look, man, I can do anything a white person can do. Anything. I don't care what it is. You give me a chance to train me or whatever, I will be able to do that. I don't care what it is. I just think that we see ourselves as lesser at times. And that's the bigger issue for me, because all of this trauma that we've experienced over time, and it seems to be like we don't even care about each other. That's not just on us, but I'm just speaking about us right now. Of course, everything is wrong in terms of the laws. The fact that only one Black president has existed on the soil, given the millions of us. I talk about that all the time, because that's perspective to me. Like, if that wasn't the case, like if there have been like a myriad of Blacks and minorities at president, then we would start to see some equality. But, and a lot of people say, well, these people aren't trained, and they aren't putting themselves up for office or doing the necessary process work to be able to put themselves in a position to be a politician. That's bull crap, man. That's bull crap. To me, if I was a foreigner and I walked into this country and I saw that they've been one Black president and all of them has been old white men, I'm saying, what's wrong here? Like, this country does not look like that. We need to just get further. We need to get further. We need to get way in the future, further in time, to be able to seek our prominence and ascend to that prominence. But, until then, man, I'm very discouraged. Like, I can't look at life the same way that I need to look at it. I want to be able to have a piece for my grandchildren and my kids that I'm so proud of. How can I look them in the face as a man and tell them that, look, this is what you're going to face as you mature in this world? So when you get to your age of 50, you're going to look at the world and say, yo, this shit ain't right. And the frustration is going to become a realization. And that realization basically is going to tell you that you are born in a time where you will never, ever see a true freedom, equality, and justice. You won't see it, because the ones of us before you got tired because we were killed. If we spoke out, we were killed. We were hung. We were put in jail. we were ostracized, we're fired from jobs, whatever that needed to happen to silence us. I just don't see the vocalization of the truth of us. The fact that we are so great as a people of what we do and the possibilities of us. And maybe this is the reason why we are killed so easily. Another dead nigger gone. I don't know. I'm trying to hold out and think that white folks are inherently good. But if they are good, if they are truly good, why are we saying the same things 400 years over? Why? Like, why? Why are we seeing this? Why are we experiencing this? Why does it make you feel better and less fearful if we are dying in front of your face? But you want to criticize us for the most dumbest stuff that you also do yourself. But it doesn't become like a character flaw with you, but it's a character flaw with us. And then we're seen as lesser and lower, and you speak to us in this infantile ways where you don't expect us to be men of ourselves. And I think that's the reason why all of these cop interactions are what they are, because you don't see us as equal. You don't see us as responsible. Even when we do have a suit on, you're wondering how we ascended to that suit. Who do we know? Affirmative action and the like.
Or they're not wondering, and they're just assuming that the suit is a facade.
All of that.
Jumping to a conclusion without even wondering. It's even worse.
All of that. Anthony, I'm glad you interrupted me because, I listen, I can literally go on and talk for.
I know.
Because I'm serious, man. It's just become so entrenched in our souls to be able to try to therapeutically get it all out so we can have like a true existence on this planet and not just see ourselves basically as the slave whose wife got raped in front of him and then we got shot for reacting to the rape. Like, that's what can we do? Like, what can we do to fix this, man? Like, I'm at a true loss because a dependence on the criminal justice system and the laws of this land has not worked. How patient must we continue to be to change it?
If nothing else, I just hope that for anybody that fell into what I spoke about earlier, that false sense of security, that got comfortable with change, got comfortable with progress, I hope they're now uncomfortable. I hope they're once again uncomfortable, or even uncomfortable for the first time in their lives. Well,
yes.
Listen, we could all go on and on and on. Rod,
I just wanted to add something real quick on the sports side. Oh yeah, just real quick. One thing I thought about with the sports aspect of this, and I'm glad AC you brought it up, was the fact that college coaches weren't speaking up. They were silent. There were a number of college football coaches that spoke up, but I've only seen one college basketball coach speak up.
Why should we expect them to?
Well, because
why should we expect them to? Because they never have.
I'm getting to that, and because they are coaching our black players, and that's my point. Mike Izzo was the only one that spoke up as far as the college basketball coaches. And the coach from NC Central called everyone out. Who he happens to be an African American coach. I can't remember his name. Is it Moton?
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's his name.
That's right.
But he called the coaches out and wondered aloud why they weren't speaking out with what's going on. My point is with this, I have been urging for the longest for parents to do this. This is the time that you should be urging your student athlete to attend HBCUs and promote our own schools and coaches. This is the time. This is the time when you can actually see, if you're on a team right now and you see that your coaches are radio silent right now in the midst of all this chaos, and maybe secretly coming to you and saying, hey, I understand you're angry, but won't come out and denounce it publicly for you on your behalf, you should be upset, and you should be saying to yourself, I want something different. These parents who got these kids playing AAU right now, you understand what these coaches are doing right now. You should be saying to yourself, hey, they come in my living room and sit in here and talk about how they're going to protect my son and this and that, and how they're going to treat him like family. That's not family. That is not family. And these coaches and kids need to be around people who are like them, who can understand them in situations like this. Because I don't know a white coach who could understand my black son when it comes to dealing with situations like this. I'm done with that, but I'm just saving something for the closeout. So I needed to get that in there because I've really been thinking about that a lot.
We're there.
Okay. Well, we're starting now.
Yeah, and you really have 60 seconds.
Okay. Real quick, man. I'm not gonna stay angry about this situation. I've already put some things in motion that I think people can do that I know I'm definitely trying to work on. Everybody out there listening to us and including us, we need to understand the laws in our community and the protocol for our police department. That's one. Second, we all need to have an independent counsel that can investigate situations like George Floyd. We cannot have the police department investigating their own and think that we're going to have somebody to lock them up. That's number two. We have to have we have to push for an independent counsel, a community counsel to oversee and get our own attorneys to oversee some of these things that's going on. And some of these smaller positions that pop up on the ballot with as far as judges, as far as district attorneys, that they don't give you information about. They give you the information about everybody who's running Republican or Democrat, some of the bigger seats like senator, vice president, president. But some of those smaller offices, especially in Long Beach and LA County, I know for sure, Mizzo, I'm not sure if it's like that where you are, but you can't find information on these people. And you don't know how they lean in situations until they're already in the position. And some of them run unopposed, and we don't know who these people are. We need to find information on every single person that's on a ballot, and we definitely need to vote. And I hope everybody continues to stay safe, continue to stay safe with COVID-19, and you're in my prayers.
Thanks, Ryan.
Let me go ahead and finish what Rodney is saying. Also, and my closeout, I have to say this. So, police unions who are contributing to campaigns of politicians, in my opinion, that's what needs to be restricted and cut off. Because if the police unions are adding their candidate to mayor, lieutenant governor, or what have you, how can we expect an ally of them to really investigate and come to a true criminal justice mind when these things continue to happen?
Right.
All of the contributions, the campaign contributions, and it needs to be just the faucet needs to be cut off. And to piggyback on what Rise just says, independent counsels need to come in. So that 99.9% of what we see as murder does not get off. And even when they're fired, they're allowed to go to another precinct, whether it's 500 miles away or the next precinct over, and get a job and continue their lives and support their families while our families continue to mourn and have a sense of nothingness because nothing happened to the perpetrator.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. And those people should be put on a desk job or fired completely when they have those many things on their records as far as their work records as police officers. This could have been avoided. That man should not have been on the street involved in 3 different other shootings and numerous other violations of people's civil rights. That's too much.
So our viewers can see that Trey joined us a little while ago, Trey Hopson, but he's now disappeared. So, all right. Well, no, he's
There he is. What's up, Trey?
all right. So we'll let Trey talk for 60 seconds.
Oh man, can you guys hear me clear?
Yes.
Because I've been getting a lot of feedback, but I've been wanting to jump in and say so much, man. I'll probably go on for the rest of this podcast. I got so much to say.
Yeah, you got 60 seconds. We're closing it out.
So, man, prayers out to George Floyd and his family, man. Like this is ridiculous, all this stuff that's going on right now. I literally left, guys, Beverly Hills. That's where I bank. And I went over there and left there probably about 2:20 and just getting home right now with all of the detours and the roadblocks and all of that. Coming through these streets and seeing what's going on right now, you see people congregating together to go out and continue to do what they've been doing. This is not protesting now. Now this is the looters. And all of this would stop if you make an arrest. That's all these people are asking for, is an arrest. But then you get to thinking around, and I'm jumping all over because my mind's going racing a mile a minute right now, and I know we're doing the closeout. But if the one officer that was on George's neck, if he got 3rd-degree murder, right? That's 12 years. And if you do great time, that's 8 years. That means you didn't mean to do what you did. What are the other 3 going to get? Time out? They're going to get thinking time?
Great
something
point.
Like that?
Great
they still
point.
Haven't been arrested. And now it's gotten to the point to where people are so upset, it's not even about the arrest anymore because we're not being heard. We're not being heard at all. And I feel terrible about all the business owners and the small business, because mom and pop spots is what makes this country go. And, you know, a lot of places are getting looted and they're Black owned, and it sucks. I get it. But you have to understand, these are opportunists that's out there, and people are fed up, people are tired, people are hungry. You see these people that are out here doing this looting and all that, man, they're starving. They've been trapped in a house for all of this time because of the whole COVID-19 thing. Then you give these big companies billions of dollars to bail them out. And then you give a fucking $1,200 to people in need. And you call that being fair? Nothing is fair. One point that you said, Mizzo, you said you can do anything a white person can do. You can probably even do it better, but you will never, ever, ever be considered an equal, because one thing you can't do is be white. And that shit is not fair at all. The way that the state that this world is in right now, man, it's terrible. And then you get a fucking president that's silent. Excuse me for cussing y'all. I hope it's no kids, but I'm speaking from the heart right now.
They'll be
You
all
get
right.
a president that's silent. All he does is send out racist fucking tweets. That's what he's doing right now. And then he sends out something that says looting, first looting, and then bullets, and that's some racist term that was used. You know what I mean? We have to get him out of office, y'all. We have to get him out of office. We have to. And it's get like if you riding with Trump, don't ever talk to me. Don't ever talk to me. Because I noticed, like, I have friends that vote Republican. They've grown up voting Republican. But if you vote Trump, don't call me no more. Don't call me no more. You see the shit that's going on, and if that's what you want, then we're not friends. And I thought you were better than that. And man, just the state that this world is in right now, man, and it's continuing to go on, and they're still not making the arrests. And guess where they are right now? They're in Van Nuys. They're in Van Nuys tearing up shit. The CVS that was looted last night on Ventura Boulevard, 5 minutes from my house, bro.
Wow.
There's shit going on right now saying the next mall that's going to be hit, Northridge Mall, Topanga Canyon Mall. Guess what? That's my territory. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop until you guys choose to do what is right. All we're asking for is for you to be fair. Treat us as equals. Treat us as equals. And I know we're on a closeout, man. I could probably keep going, but like I said, I just want everybody to stay safe and try to stay home and stay away from this nonsense, man, because it's a lot of opportunists out there, and I would hate for somebody to get hurt dealing with these people, man, because like the protesters, that's one thing, but the opportunists, like you look on the news, you see the same cars, the same people, and they don't think they're going to get caught. They're going to get caught eventually. They're going to get caught, you know? I don't know, man. It's a real bad situation. I'm really angry about it, man, and sorry for tuning in late, but it like I said, normally a 20-minute drive took me over 2 hours to get home because of all the detours. And I can just tell you this, don't go to Beverly Hills because you're going to jail. You can't get anywhere close to Rodale Drive.
Wow.
Nowhere. They have probably 300 cops just sitting on Rodale Drive like it's a car show.
Wow.
Then they have everything blocked up. They sending us all through the canyons. We get out of the canyons, and you look, and you see people congregating. I'm getting these updates on my phone saying that curfew is getting pushed back. Got my wife calling me. Curfew's closer. Then look, and you see people riling up to go do the shit again. But if you check the news, guess what hasn't happened? No arrest. It's not fair.
So one thing that was part of my upbringing, at least 10 years before I was even licensed, so 6, my dad had a talk with me. My mom was always talking to me about certain things, but my dad had a talk with me about the need for me to be extremely careful if and when I got pulled over when I would drive. And you know, you grow up and you kind of think, oh, this is a new world, this is a new age, I'm probably invincible. I mean, we lived in a really bad neighborhood. I grew up on 95th and Hoover, which is South LA, South LA. And I used to have to fight on my way home. Like I had to fight people to fight to stay out of a gang. People kept trying to jump me in, and he was like, when you grow up, or when you're old enough to drive, you'll probably get pulled over just because you'll get pulled over, just because you're black. But one thing that you need to know is you're generally going to get pulled over and be on an island. Like you'll probably be by yourself. The people that pull you over won't be by themselves. And you need to do all that you can to make sure that you survive that interaction. And that's some heavy, heavy, heavy talk for a 6-year-old. But he didn't just leave it there. Like he explained it to me. So your hands go on the dashboard. Even before they ask you where your hands are or anything, if you can get your license and registration up on the dashboard before they get there, great. But you don't want them to see you fiddling with anything. Hands are on the dashboard. They'll ask you for whatever they're going to ask you for. And then if it's not right there and you have to reach for it, you want to let them know, I'm going to reach in my back pocket for my wallet where my ID is. It's a black wallet. It's folded up. I'm going to pull it all the way out first, unfold it, because we used to have wallets that folded, unfold it, and then pull my license out. It's right on top. My registration is in the glove compartment. I'm going to reach over. I'm going to keep my left hand here. I'm going to reach over with my right hand, open the glove compartment, grab my registration, and then hand it to you. Is that okay? And do you understand? All of that versus someone who doesn't grow up like that, they just reach for whatever and they don't think about that. They don't have to think about that because they're completely safe when they get pulled over, whether they were doing something or not. But this is ingrained in my head at 6, at 7, at 8. So when I finally get my learner's permit, my driving permit at 15 and a half, I'm excited to drive, but I don't lose the lesson. I'm terrified of getting pulled over. I turned 16, actually get the license. I'm terrified of getting pulled over. Oh, did I miss the memo? I didn't give you guys the memo? Pulled over by police because you can die from that. And this is, my dad is telling me this in 1981. We're 39 years later, and this is still happening, and it's happening on camera. And he didn't get pulled over. So many people die getting pulled over. He was not pulled over. He was sitting in his car, was extricated from his car, was sitting down up against the store before Chauvin got there. And then I didn't see what happened in between the point where he was sitting down and the point where he's face down with a knee in his neck. And I believe, the video I saw, the other two were on him too. And then, of course, we know Tao is crowd control. We watched that man press the life out of George Floyd and got up and snickered and actually snapped at somebody and pulled out his mace like he was ready to do some more damage. And he clearly felt nothing for that. In the midst of COVID-19, that dude changed America right then. But why did it take that? Going back to what Mizzo said, why did it take that? That's not the first time that happened. It's not the first time it happened on camera. But here's my thing. We can debate why this and why not something else. And we can argue the fact that it should have happened prior to now, that people should have taken action, people should be holding other people accountable. But whatever the catalyst winds up being, I need people to refrain from getting comfortable. We must remain uncomfortable. We must remain on alert. And to Mizzo's point, we must make other people uncomfortable, even when it's uncomfortable for us to make them uncomfortable, because we're not necessarily used to that. I am. Mizzo is. We're not necessarily used to having conversations that make other people uncomfortable. We need to be uncomfortable, make them uncomfortable, have the dialogue. And if they're not willing to have the dialogue, as Trey was saying, you don't need to be around. Well, actually, Trey said even more than that. He doesn't even want to have that dialogue. Like, if you're telling me that you support this guy, we don't need to talk. Because I don't need to talk you out of it. I don't need to talk you out of that. With all of the I can't. This is not about him. This is not about him. This is not about the guy who you guys, the athlete who you guys praise. You all wear his shoes. He said nothing since 1984 or whenever the hell he came out. And now he finally said something. We can ask why now. I won't say his name. I won't say what he said. It's very little and it's very late. But if it sparks some kind of change, then okay, hats off to him. You were very calculated in that it took you 36 years to say one thing. And then if that one thing helps get us out of the racial injustice and racial inequality and the beatings and killings by law enforcement, then okay. Thanks for that. 23. I appreciate it. Finally. We are under attack and have been under attack for my entire life. And I really thought when I turned 25, boy, like I said, I made it. Well, here's the thing. We're all endangered species now. It's not just whatever the statistic was, 14 to 21, or I think it was 14 to 23 Black males, endangered species back then. George Floyd, I don't remember how old he was, but he's definitely over 40. They don't care how old you are. They don't. They don't care what your gender is. They only care about your perceived race or ethnicity. Because sometimes they think it's us and it's not us. It's a Dominican or something like that, especially out in NY. But they are continuing to get away with murder. Literally. Literally. Not figuratively. Literally. And we need to keep the conversation going. We need to remain uncomfortable, and we need to continue to make other people uncomfortable. And then to Mike's question, how do you tell your grandchild, or in my case, my daughter, that at age 50, you're going to be wondering this and wondering that and know that you have no control over it? No, we just keep fighting as hard as we can, as long as we can. And then maybe we'll catch a break. And then maybe that break will roll down the hill and catch us a couple more breaks. And then we turn this thing around. We just can't give up hope, and we can't get comfortable. We appreciate you guys once again for tuning in. The viewership on YouTube, the listenership on Anchor, the listenership on Spotify. This is episode 15. We appreciate you. This was a different kind of episode, but this is us. And thank you. Please remain safe. People are still out there trying to kill me without wearing masks, and I really don't understand it. I'm not making a joke. Like, hey, okay, your restaurant's open and you can eat at the table, but don't hang out outside without the mask on. Don't walk all up on people. Like, social distancing is still important. And they just don't care. And it's sad. And guess what? The count is spiking again.
Mhm.
Sunday was the worst day in LA County in a long time.
Mhm.
You do that math. Right after everything opened back up. 2,241 new cases on Sunday. 2,241 and 89 deaths. It's not going away if you guys keep amplifying it. We love you guys.
Love you, brother.
Out.
Peace.
Yep. Safe.